Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us here and in our first episode of GPS for Your Business. Today we're going to be talking about strategic planning. We'll be joined by your coach and co-host, Mike Nannini, and I am Dr. Randi Ross. Let's tell you a little bit about Mike Nannini, just in case you don't know who he is. Mike is a certified business coach. He's actually the owner of FocalPoint Business Performance of Central New Jersey. He brings 20 years, that's 2 decades of executive management experience. He brings a clear, easy to understand approach founded in FocalPoint's proven systems. And Mike believes, this is important, systems run businesses and people run those systems. Well, we want to bring Mike on and welcome Mike to the show. And thank you so much for taking the time to let us know a little bit about some of the important elements of our business.
Hi, Randy. Thanks everyone for taking some time out of your day to watch our video. Appreciate it.
All right. And just so everyone knows, this is going to be a series. If for some reason you haven't watched them in order, that's okay. You can go back and you can review them, and you'll find that these will be really great strategies that anyone, no matter what kind of business you're in, you're going to find these effective tools to get you to that next level. So what we're going to be talking about today is something called strategic planning. And Mike, could you actually explain what that is? Because I know, to someone like you who's been in the business world for so long, it seems like it's self-explanatory. But I think that there might be some of our viewers that don't understand what it is and how it will actually apply to their particular business.
Yeah, sure, Randy. So I think it's a great question because strategic planning is a scary term for a lot of people. I could imagine if I was looking at your faces when you introduced the topic, many people's eyebrows may have gone up, and the hair on the back of their neck may have stood up, because the idea of strategy and strategic planning to small businesses, frankly, is just not something that they spend a whole lot of time doing. So one of the things that we will talk about in our group coaching sessions is really what strategic planning is and how it can be something that's easy to use for small businesses. So in simple terms, it's the ability to think, plan, decide, and take action, which largely determines the course of your life and of your business. Overall, the goal of strategic planning is to enable your company to utilize its people and resources more effectively. The end result, the company, will then function better than before. It really is that easy.
So that's really what the benefit comes down to of strategic planning on kind of a broad angle is you, your company, your employees, it's a win-win for everyone when you start using this process.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. A true definition of strategic planning is to increase your company's return on equity. Now, that may sound like a big fancy corporate America term, return on equity. And for those of you that follow the stock market, it may be something that you hear about when you look at companies. But equity for small business owners is really defined as the actual amount of time and energy they spend on their business. So that might be hours worked. It might be personal investment that they're making in their business. It might be the sacrifices that they're making, which is taking them away from their friends and family or their hobbies or other things that they're interested in. So really what strategic planning does is increase the return, satisfaction, and benefit that small business owners get on the time and energy that they dedicate to their companies.
And, just for everyone that's listening, we're not here to give you a 60-minute, even though it's only 10 minutes or 15-minute kind of infomercial. We're really here to give you some meat and potatoes. So that being said, Mike, give me a starting place. I'm a small business owner, whether I'm a healthcare provider or an insurance agent or real estate broker or anyone else that has a small business that serves the community. Maybe I only have a couple of employees and I'm really running the show. Where do I even start with this? How do I even break this down so I can take a piece off?
Yeah, so the easiest way to break it down is really into 8 foundational questions where you should start. So really, the first 3 are defining your values, your vision, and your mission. Now, I will say that many of those things are quote unquote buzzwords that may seem inconsequential to many small business owners, but they really aren't. They apply differently to different companies, but there's value in figuring out each from the standpoint of clarity. You have to be clear on your business and what it stands for, what business you are in, and what you are trying to accomplish. Without that, you have no purpose and you have no path to get to where it is you want to go, because frankly, you haven't figured out where it is that you're headed. So once those 3 things are determined, you should think about your purpose. Every successful entrepreneur has an overarching purpose to their business. What's yours? Once you've defined that, then you get into goals, knowledge, and skills and habits. What are the things that you're trying to accomplish? What are your goals? What is the knowledge that you need to get there? Which of that knowledge already exists inside of your company? Maybe it's with you, maybe it's with your employees. And then what are the skills that you need, similar to knowledge? And what are the habits that you need to do on a regular basis? By habits, I mean, what are you going to do on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis that are going to actually drive you towards those goals that you're trying to achieve? So I don't know if that's a simple explanation, but I think that that's the easiest way to explain really what the strategic planning process is all about.
So is your suggestion, if you were working with someone, and as far as full disclosure here, I can tell you, and because people didn't get to see me before, let me welcome everyone. I have my screen share on for you. Mike and I actually do work together, and that's why I'm so excited to be a part of this with him, because I can tell you, after being in business for 25 years and working with lots of coaches, Mike is very unique, and he's probably one of the best listeners I've ever met in my entire life. So Mike, let's like talk about, if you and I are working together for the first day. We're talking about strategic planning. What is the first thing you're going to have me do? You're going to have me write these things down. How are you going to get my wheels turning for myself and obviously to translate this to my employees? How are you going to get me to actually do this, as opposed to just something to think about, which never materializes, as we all know, especially for most small business owners?
Yeah, and that's the biggest challenge with this, right? Is people, once you get them to think about this, the hard part is putting it in place and making sure that you're living it on a regular basis. And it's not just you, it's your entire teams. And that's critical, right? Because everybody has to be marching in the same direction. If you can think about, if you see soldiers marching in a military formation, if one of them gets out of line, the whole thing gets out of whack. So everybody has to be pointed in the same place. So really how we start is I have a list of questions, things like, where do you see your business in the next 30, 60, 90 days and 1 year? What are the biggest challenges that you face? What's the biggest opportunity that you face? What business are you truly in? What do you do? What business do you want to be in? Sometimes those are 2 different things. What's the biggest challenge that you're faced with on a regular basis? And then the last question is really, if you could change one thing in your business, what would that be? A lot of people don't really think about things. They have quick answers to some of those. They have to think about them for some of the other ones. But really what that does is it starts the foundation of, hey, where is this business today? Where does it think it wants to go? And then from there we go and we have a very in-depth conversation about the responses from each one of those things, and really get to 2 or 3 levels below the answers to those questions, and figure out, sort of what do we want to be when we grow up, right? Because at the end of the day, what's important is that as a business owner, you're bought into where it is you're trying to go, and you are fully on board with it, and you're willing to make the sacrifices that go along with getting there.
I think that's a very valid point. And Mike, can you differentiate a little bit for our viewers? What's the difference between a goal and strategic planning? I know all of us that have ever been through any kind of business program, coaching program, I mean, everybody talks about, your goals, and write your goals down and all that. Explain to people that are thinking, well, I do goal setting. What's the difference between goal setting and strategic planning for your business?
Well, goal setting is part of the strategic planning process. It's hard to set a goal unless you know what your strategy is, right? And so when we talk about goals, there's a few things, right? I like to say that you need to have SMART goals. So SMART is an acronym, and basically what it means is they need to be specific, they need to be measurable, they need to be actionable, and they need to be time bound, right? They also need to be aligned with your values and your vision for your company, because otherwise, it's just very hard to get your whole team sort of marching in that formation, as I said. So goals are part of the process, but really, let's talk about the local ice cream parlor, right? Everybody in their town has the local ice cream parlor, and their ice cream is the best ice cream for miles, right? I can tell you, I live in New Jersey. The ice cream parlor that comes to mind for me is a place called Hoffman's Ice Cream. They have a couple of locations, but it is delicious. When you go there, it's like it's a treat. But have you ever wondered why their ice cream is so good? When you're there on a hot summer day, they know why it's so good. Now let's think about if you owned that ice cream parlor. And let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, that you owned the ice cream business and your goal was to really, really grow that business. What are your options? Well, to understand your options, you need to think about the first questions we discussed earlier. Values. Let's say this ice cream parlor uses only the finest organic ingredients. Okay, that's their value. They like to use organic ingredients. Vision. Their vision is to have people all around the country enjoy their ice cream in 3 years, right? So again, very specific. They want to grow their brand and be able to offer their ice cream across the country in 3 years. So that's time bound. So that's part of their strategic planning process, but that's also a goal. Now let's talk about their mission. Their mission is to create wonderful ice cream, have happy customers, and be philanthropic, right? That's a pretty good mission for them to have. And I would ask each of you that are listening to this, if you worked for a company like that and they came out and they were clear and they said, hey, our mission is to create a wonderful product, keep our customers happy, and be philanthropic, would that help you make decisions throughout the course of your day as to what you were going to do when you had to decide something for a client or a customer, or whatever the case may be, somebody that came into the ice cream parlor? It probably would. Then you get to goals. Let's say their goal is to be the largest independent organic ice cream manufacturer in the US in 5 years. It's pretty clear, isn't it? That's the most important part. Again, they have to have clear goals and they have to be time bound. After goals, it's knowledge. What knowledge do they already have about how to meet their goal? They already know how to make great ice cream. They know how to make it so that maybe they support 1 or 2 ice cream parlors. Do they know how to make it so that the entire country can consume their ice cream? Probably not. So they need to figure that out. So what are the gaps and how do they close them? Then come skills and habits. What skills do they need? Which ones do they already have and which do they need to acquire? Finally, it comes down to habits. What do they need to do daily, weekly, monthly basis that they can measure so that they can meet their goal of being the largest independent organic ice cream distributor in the US in 5 years? So that was a long-winded answer to it, because strategic planning process is a holistic view, but hopefully that gives you a better understanding of exactly how you would go through and actually think about, hey, what do I want my business to be in 3 years, in 5 years, even in 1 or 2 years? It's important that you go through that.
That was an awesome response, Mike. I think that really got a lot of people thinking about how they can go about this process and at least start it to, take one piece of it. If you do nothing, then nothing gets done. If you start this, what you start to see when you work with a good coach like Mike, and if you follow our program, is all of a sudden you start to look at things in a whole new light, and certain things that maybe you weren't even, looking at because you were just really procrastinating or avoiding something. When you start to look at it and you have that vision and you understand your passion and you can really move forward in this process, you start to feel good about yourself. And sometimes some of those things that you were avoiding because they just seemed like they required too much of your time, or maybe you weren't successful with them in the past, all of a sudden you see them in a new light, and there's a lot of hope, and there's a lot of really defined steps to grow your business. Mike, there's one more thing I just want you to kind of detail for our viewers in this aspect. And that's, and you and I have talked about this, the difference between the strategic planning and, something where it's 5 or 10-year goals.
Yeah, so 5 or 10 year goals are very aspirational, if you will, and it's very easy to say, I want to be this in 5 or 10 years, which is a nice thing to do. But the reality is that none of us know where we're going to be in 5 or 10 years. And it's very easy to think about that and come up with something and say, this is what I want to be. It's very hard to actually chart a course to get there unless it's very, very specific. So for most small businesses, what I find works best is really thinking shorter term and looking out 12 months, maybe 2 years, especially if they've never gone through this sort of a thing before. Uncovering those key areas that they need to focus on as part of this strategic planning is key. And it's much easier for them to do that over 1 to 2 years, which is still a long period of time. But when you break them down into, okay, this is what I want to accomplish, these are the things that I need to do over the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, it becomes measurable, and it becomes something that they can hold themselves accountable to. It becomes something that me as their coach can help them with accountability, because that accountability and perspective are the two most powerful things that I bring to the table. And more importantly, it allows them to get their team, if they have people that work for them, all pointed again in that right direction.
Well, Mike, I think that unless there's something else that you want to add that maybe I've failed to ask you in this process, I think we're close to tying up this episode. Is there anything that I've left out?
No, I think, Randy, the only thing that I would add, and I know you and I have spoken about this, and I've spoken with this with many of my clients, the strategic planning process as we started is scary. I will tell you this, that I've done this in huge corporations, some of the largest corporations in the US, and I've done this in small, 1 and 2 person companies. The big corporations do this very, very well because they have a very clear process that they go through, and they have check marks, and they have a lot of people involved. And sometimes a lot of people is good. Sometimes, frankly, it's not. But where the big corporations really fall down, in my opinion, when it comes to the strategic planning process, is their ability to execute on them, especially large public companies, because there's always headwinds, because especially over the last 5 to 7 years, right? There's always headwinds around expense reductions, cost cuts, changes in executive management, changes in the direction of the company, frankly, and just, things that come up that prevent them from actually achieving their long-term goals. So they tend to think very short-term. Small businesses, to contrast that, control their own destiny to a large extent. And frankly, what it comes down to as far as executing against your strategic plan is really just forcing yourself to take the time out of your day to think about this and develop the plan. You have to have some investment up front, and then on an ongoing basis, you have to be able to monitor how you're doing. And if you can do that, this can really be a transformational change for your business.
Well, I just want to do a little recap here for our viewers so that, everyone, if you're watching, go ahead and get something and you can jot these down. This is how to really get started with your strategic planning. There's a little bit of a review of what Mike, talked about that you need to do. You also feel free to review this video over and over again. I know Mike really kind of brought a lot of information in a short period of time. So go ahead and put it up there and, view a section and go ahead and practice it and apply it. And then, go back and take this in steps. I know, Mike, you also want to offer something to people that have taken the time to join us on this episode. You have I believe it's a 5-minute assessment.
Yes, that's right. You can take our 5-minute assessment, and it will go ahead and feed the answers directly to me. And then I'll send you a quick summary based on those responses of to where I think that there might be some opportunity to improve your business, make it more profitable, and really just make your quality of life, both inside and outside of your business, better across the board. So it would be great. You go ahead and take that assessment. It's simple, it's easy, it's 15 questions. They're, some of are rating things, others are yes, no. But if you can go ahead and do that, I think that would be a great start to making some improvements.
Yeah, so if you just really simply go ahead and click on the link that you're seeing. For some of you, it might be below the screen. For many of you, it'll be right on the video. It will take you to a page. It will say, click here to get started. And like Mike said, I mean, I took it and it took me about 2 minutes. We're saying 5 minutes for people that think a little bit more maybe before they do this. But in 5 minutes, you're going to get an award-winning coach like Mike Nannini, who's going to get an opportunity to share some suggestions with you on how to grow your business. So, go ahead and take advantage of that. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today on this episode of Strategic Planning, GPS for Your Business. Make sure to check out all of our GPS for Your Business videos. Every week, we're going to do a new topic where Mike's going to really give you some amazing pointers on things you should be doing in your business. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.